Mr. Vice President, Mr. Speaker, members of the Senate, of the House of Representatives, yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The United States was at peace with that nation, and at the solicitation of Japan, was still in conversation with its government and its emperor, looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific. Indeed, 1 hour after Japanese air squadrons had commenced bombing in the American island of Oahu, the Japanese ambassador to the United States and his colleague delivered to our Secretary of State a formal reply to a recent American message. Japan has therefore undertaken a surprise offensive extending throughout the Pacific area. The facts of yesterday and today speak for themselves. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory. With confidence in our armed forces, with the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God.
The tensions were somewhat building that there would be a war, but they couldn't figure out how we could get so many people to back the government. Pearl Harbor was on a Sunday. Well, it's one Sunday morning, I'm on my way going to a bingo party. They call it card and bunco party. Organizations on a Sunday afternoon would sponsor these on a little local level. Well, I'm walking along the street and I hear this radio saying Pearl Harbor's been bombed. As the day went on, there were more reports of the same thing. They had nothing to report. They didn't know. Then the next day, as I said to you in high school, Tilden High School, we went to Assembly Room and President Roosevelt gave the address that we are now at war with Japan. It was not unusual to have Chinese laundries in a neighborhood who would do your shirts with the right amount of starch for a reasonable price. The poor man, the Chinese man who was born in this country, had to close his shades to his shop so that they wouldn't realize that he was Chinese. Everybody knew who it was. I think for 4 days, the guy never left the building. He was afraid, reasonably so.
Did he ever have any trouble?
No. You don't understand. He was in a solid ethnic neighborhood of people of Polish and Slavic descent who had experienced some discrimination when they came over here themselves. So he had been there all those years, so they didn't bother him at all. But I don't know how long he was closed, because I think it was a better part of valor to close and not agitate. But a lot of the guys would get a few beers in them and start making noises. Jay's potato chips was called Japs, J-A-P. Japs potatoes. That was the name of the man, Jap, J-A-P. After Pearl Harbor, they couldn't get the packages off the shelves quick enough, and then they changed the name to Jay's, same company. Well, that was all right. But the name Japs would have killed them. People didn't want to buy it. It was Jap.
I never knew that.
No, now you know it.
That's an interesting story.
So after we heard Pearl Harbor's bombed, where the hell's Pearl Harbor? I didn't even know where Los Angeles was or San Francisco, much less Pearl Harbor. Well, the first thing you did, you went to the library and you looked the map up to see where Japan was. My first thought was, how in the hell could they bomb Pearl Harbor when it was out in a harbor? Well, what I didn't know that the Japanese planes came over the mountains. Oahu, O-H-A-U-O, had the flat land, and then the rest was mountains. Well, when the Japanese planes left the carrier, they came low over water, and they came low over the mountains, and then went down. Radar at that time was primitive. There was no such thing as radar to pick up planes coming. And the men who saw the planes coming thought it was the Americans doing their summer routine flying, didn't pay any attention to it. So they stood there looking at the planes. Now, I was not at Pearl Harbor at the time, but when I went there, I saw the mountains and I could see how they could surprise them. Okay, now, the Arizona was sunk with a lot of loss of lives because you got to understand, the sailors had Saturday and Sunday off. Half the ship would have this weekend, the other half of the ship would have the other. Well, if you went on a drinking binge on Saturday, you're laying there on Sunday, you're out. So when they come to hit the ships, they hit it on Sunday, but they wiped out more that were in a ship that sunk, that couldn't get out of the ship. That's why the Arizona is a monument now. Incidentally, reading in a book, the Arizona had so much fuel that is still leaking fuel to this day. And they're not sure what to do. They can't pump it all out. They're not sure if they should pour more concrete around it or just let it go. So much fuel that's coming out of the Arizona today to pollute the harbor with crude oil from the ship.
Still to this day.
You don't read about that, but